Reason why I want to talk about this guy right here, all right, he's a former police chief, and apparently he got into some disciplinarian issues as a police chief, and then he became a regular police officer. For some reason, the town where he was police chief won't reveal why they quietly sent him off. But the rumor is he was involved with other women, you know. Basically, look, this is him as a prisoner, but he used to be a cop, police chief, and now he's a full-on wood in prison. And the reason why I want to speak on this guy specifically is because when you think about police officers, normally you think about, okay, they're always getting off. They're always getting off. They're always doing these completely terrible things to young urban kids, and they get off. No, that's not the case. Police officers always get convicted. It's just the cases in which they get convicted aren't on TV, because the cases in which they get convicted on involve people of their own racial group. Okay, this guy killed this woman. He had a relationship with her for about 12 years. She got pregnant by him, and he didn't want her to have the baby. He wanted her to essentially have an abortion and just forget about the baby. But she decided to have the child. And while she was 8 months pregnant, this guy killed her. He called her on the phone, figured out a way to get her into his beat, the beat in which his area in which he patrols. He lured her there under false pretenses of having a good conversation with her, having lunch or whatever. You know, let's meet up, have lunch in his beat where he patrols. That way he could be the person to discover the body. All right, so he kills her, and he has an extension cord wrapped around her neck attached to the roof rack. You know, the roof rack is where you put bikes on top of your car. And he staged it to look like a suicide. And she was 8 months pregnant, so he actually got convicted of killing two people, his unborn child and the mother of the child. And he had a family at home. You know, he had a wife, he had several children, and he was habitually getting women pregnant. He would go out in his uniform, and he would meet women in the areas that he patrolled, and he would get them pregnant, you know. And that typically happens with police officers who patrol bars and they hang out in these downtown cosmopolitan areas where people party. They meet women and they end up getting them pregnant. It's something that police stations and chiefs of police try to keep on a down low, but it's something that's definitely prevalent. But anyway, this guy, he messed up because, all right, first of all, what happened is, I think that he messed up because he had on latex gloves when he strangled her to death, and she bit off a chunk of the latex glove, which was somewhere, you know, in the vehicle, this little piece of latex with his blood in it. And he typed out a suicide note. He actually went on his computer at home, typed out a suicide note claiming that she had killed herself because she had ruined, you know, she killed herself because she didn't know who the father of her child was. She thought that the father of her child was some other guy, but, you know, she killed herself because she couldn't live with the shame of not knowing who the father of her child was. And his fingerprints are all over that suicide note. And another thing that gave him up was dispatch. His police dispatch was trying to get in contact with him because somehow her family was looking for her. She had been missing or something like that. They couldn't get in contact with her, and dispatch was trying to get in contact with him because they wanted him to. I think there was something about a suspicious vehicle. I think her vehicle was just sitting in the middle of the street, right? So somebody called the police, and police were trying to get in contact with him because that was his area that he patrolled, and they wanted him to go check on it, but he didn't answer the radio call. And another cop actually ended up coming because he noticed that this cop wasn't answering the call, which is very weird in the police world. And when he gets there, he sees him already there, sweating. He has cuts all over his face. He's bleeding and stuff like that. And he's throwing up. And he's basically, physically, he's giving off signs that he just finished doing something. And the officer who came who witnessed him throwing up and witnessed the scratches and cuts on his face, first thing that he instinctually thought, hey, this guy is fishy. This guy is acting like he's guilty of doing something. And then when he checked, this other officer who came to the scene now, when he checked the dead girl's phone, he realized that the last 3 phone calls were from him. And the other officer actually had his hand on his gun and asked him, hey, Ken, why did you call this girl 3 times before she died? And he came up with an excuse. He lied, blah, blah, blah. And eventually they did a test on an unborn baby, and he got life in prison. So I just want you guys to know that police officers and military people always go to prison for violence. The news doesn't really like to publicize a lot of these trials, but sometimes you'll find these trials on these true crime shows years after they've happened. But for the most part, the local media is the only outlet that pretty much talks about these kinds of stories, because the national media doesn't want to portray police officers and military people as violent, which they really are. You know, some military people are good, some cops are good, but there's a lot of them that aren't. There's a lot of them that commit violence when they come home, or in terms of the military, a lot of them commit acts of violence when they come home. I don't know why, but there's a very high level of homicidal people in the military. And as well as cops. These people that work in these high-stress fields, for some reason, there's a correlation between working in a high-stress field like policing and the military and murdering people. I don't know why. I don't know. I mean, my personal opinion is that these people just can't handle their adrenaline. I think that some people, when they get that adrenaline rush, they are more in control and they're more focused. And then other people, when adrenaline hits them, they get into this kill or be killed mentality. And it's very irrational. But anyways, peace.